Hello, everyone. I'm Pastor Dave. I'm here to give you 3 lessons that I'd like to share for you. You're going to see the sense of the room moving around because when I get nervous and try to share, I have to move around. I walk. So I'm a pacer. But anyway, I want to share the good word that I have about a personal relationship that you can have with the divine. In my case, it's Christ, but it doesn't have to be Christ. It can be any religious imagery that you need to set for yourself. But I do have 3 basics lessons that I want to share. And one is whether I'm actually a pastor. The second is the difference between religion and faith. And the third one is about the 4 steps that I believe Jesus had shared with us to try to help us be better people, help us with our relationship with the divine, and also help us create a better world. So keeping that in mind, I'll start off with whether I'm a pastor. Just for the record, here's my little certificate of ordination. I paid $32 for the right to call myself a pastor and to share what I hope is a strong lesson or strong sermon for the 4-step program that I think Jesus wanted us to live and exercise. So as long as I share my thoughts about Jesus, then I call myself a pastor. And I also make the distinction that a pastor of religion is a pastor that is formally trained. They go through divination, or not divination, but like divine training in the sense they study theology, they study the religious order, the religious rules, the religious creed, all those kind of things. And I doubt most people who are religious make or think of religion and faith as separate things. They probably don't. But I do. I think of religion as the sort of rules of the faith, of the belief system. It's really the system, very formalized. And that faith is just that personal relationship that you have with the divine. Like I said, in my case, I use Jesus as my divine connection. And I've felt that Jesus had a very powerful message for us and a real powerful purpose for us. So religion is the order, faith is the relationship. And then the third thing I wanted to talk about are the 4 steps that Jesus wanted us to go through to help improve our relationship with ourselves, with other people, with the world, to help create a better world. And of course, it all comes from the power and that personal connection that you can have and develop with Jesus or the divine. All right, the first step is probably the hardest, in my opinion, because if you can't get through the first step, you really can't get to the subsequent steps. So non-judgment is such a difficult thing to do. Our nature is so much a nature of judgment. We judge everything. We judge everybody's looks, what job they have, where they live, how they speak. We're always judging others. And Jesus wanted us to stop doing that. Because if you really want to get to that deep personal relationship with the divine, to really understand the soulful connection that you could have with that spiritual field, I call it the divine field, then we really have to get through the non-judgment. The tendency of non-judgment that's a very difficult thing to develop. But if you keep yourself in awareness and recognize that you cannot stand in the judgment of others for being human beings. I mean, yes, we have to protect ourselves, and I understand all that, and that's all part of the need for a society that orders itself. But you can't just live in a state of fear and assume that everybody is out to harm you. I mean, it's wise to be careful because people are not good. I mean, in the sense that their base instinct is to think of only themselves, just like you. That's what you do. That's what I do. We're always prone to think of ourselves and what we need. And we have to walk in that place of fear if we cannot get over the possibility or get over the reality that other people could be harmful to us. But you're a Christian. You're somebody who wants more than just to be a human being reacting to your life. You want to have a real place, a real sense of the connection, a deeper connection to the outward sense of the divine. It can't be about yourself. So that's why we have to walk in non-judgment. We don't want our relationship with the divine, with Christ, to be dampened by our fear of living our life because we can't walk in the non-judgment that Jesus wants us to. It's one thing that we all live lives where we try not to sin, we try not to lie, but, we all fall for that, I get it, but that's why the non-judgment step is so important, because it not only includes the non-judgment of others, but it also includes the non-judgment of yourself. And even I go a step further, that it also has to be the sort of non-judgment of creation, of what God's intention was by creation. So you can't really judge what God has in order for us, and you really can't judge, the wisdom of having us created with what we perceive to be as flawed human beings. And whatever reason you want to give yourself that says, we have fallen from the grace of God, it seems, in my case, and again, I'm not going to defend religious thoughts about it, but it just seems that it's pointless to blame God or blame other people, Adam and Eve and other whatever stories you need to convince yourself that somehow we have separated ourselves from paradise and that we have to strive to get back to it. I think that's not helpful. I think you should accept and that's part of the importance of non-judgment is to accept that we are living in God's creation and this is what He created, whether we are comfortable with it or not. And Jesus gave us a very specific formula on how to do that. And one of those things, or the first step and the most important step and the hardest step, I personally think, is to live in a place of non-judgment. And if you can do that, then you can actually get to the point of step 2, which is forgiveness. Because not only do you understand the flawed nature, or I shouldn't even say flawed nature, but what we call flawed is not necessarily flawed. It could be what God had intended. This is what creation is. And we actually have been fortunate enough to have a number of spiritual thinkers help us realize that we can do better, that we can live in a place of peace. Peace is the 4th step. It's the ultimate goal, and we get there through the 4 steps. We start off with non-judgment. We work on our forgiveness. We try to get to the point where we can forgive ourselves. We can forgive others. Very difficult. None of these steps are easy, but they're real. I mean, they are absolutely things that we can do. And in so doing, we're going to prove to be a better person. We're going to have a better relationship with the divine. We're going to have a better relationship with the world, and the world might actually have a place in peace. That's what we're hoping for. Peace on earth, goodwill to all. Simple, but your personal purpose is, it's challenging. So once you can establish a non-judgment place in your thinking, and you can maintain that with your connection with the divine by maintaining your relationship with Christ, then you're going to be just fine. Because you can easily get to the point of forgiveness, or not that it's easy, but you'll understand how forgiveness comes out of that non-judgment. If you can really stand without judging others, then you're in a better place to forgive others. Which leads us to the third step. You can forgive yourself and you can forgive others. You can love. So love is the third step. So we have non-judgment is the first. Forgiveness is the second. Love, loving yourself, loving thy neighbor. All of that for the purpose of step 4, which is peace. Peace within yourself so that you can create peace around the world. And that's with the help of everybody else that has found peace through the divine connection, then peace on earth is actually possible. Is it hard? Yes, very hard. But Jesus had, I think, the best vision of all the spiritual leaders, because he really believed human beings can make that leap into the divine and really change the world. So I think focusing on just the afterlife is not really a purpose. You're just sort of keeping your head low, making sure nobody, harms you, and that's why it's important to have law and order so that you can die and go to heaven. You got your ticket punched to go to heaven. Well, you can do better than that. Jesus has a real vision for you. He has a real purpose. And it's still very much life-sustaining throughout all these centuries. So, again, I'll repeat, we try to stand in non-judgment of ourselves and others, try to forgive ourselves and others, try to love ourselves and others, so that we can develop the everlasting peace in ourselves and bring about peace on earth and goodwill to all. Okay, those are my lessons now. I will come back in a series of sermons that I want to share online. So I thank you for listening to me at this point, and I will definitely be back and share more of my thoughts. Thank you very much. Take care.